The Circular Economy Minister, Lorna Slater, has accused the UK Government of deliberately sabotaging Scotland's deposit return scheme. It's the latest intervention in what's become an increasingly bitter dispute between the two governments about how the recycling scheme should work. Addressing Parliament today, Ms Slater said Scotland was paying the price for what she called the broken union. Opposition parties say the delays are the Scottish Government's own fault. Here's our political editor, Glenn Campbell.
Glass bottles were supposed to be part of the Scottish deposit return scheme, but UK ministers have decided it can only go ahead with cans and plastic bottles. The Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack is among those who took that decision, angering ministers in the Scottish Parliament.
The Scottish Secretary, whose job is supposed to be ensuring that devolution runs smoothly, seems more interested in torpedoing Scotland's Parliament than he is in protecting Scotland's environment.
She says the UK decision creates a dilemma for Scottish ministers.
We are now being forced to examine whether the deliberate sabotage by the UK Government leaves us something that we can make work.
Her opponents argue that it is the Scottish Government that's playing constitutional politics with deposit return.
She would rather pick a fight with the UK Government than support a scheme that works for everyone. She has traded her environmentalism for nationalism.
The Minister has chosen to make this statement about the Constitution and is using it as an excuse to divert attention from the utter mismanagement and the uncertainty her scheme has caused.
The deposit return scheme is supposed to start in Scotland next March, but the Scottish Government's now weighing up whether or not that's still possible. The Prime Minister told me last month he was listening carefully to businesses here and across the UK.
Many independent people from businesses and elsewhere have raised concerns with the scheme, the impact it will have on Scottish shoppers and the availability of products as well.
None of his ministers have been available for interview since the UK Government reached its decision. A decision that means Scotland could still become the first part of the UK to introduce deposit return, on condition it matches plans for England that exclude glass.
OK, Glenn joins me now then. Glenn, OK then, can the scheme survive?
Well, one source who's closely involved with the deposit return scheme tells me they think the chances are now 50-50. I think the Scottish Government's going to want to take a week or two to work through the detail, to recalculate the economics of the scheme with glass removed. But that's not all, because there are other conditions. The UK Government wants to be sure that any scheme in Scotland matches what eventually emerges in other parts of the UK. So that means the barcodes, the labelling that's used, the deposit charge itself has to match what emerges in the rest of the UK. So Scottish ministers wonder how they can be sure that what they might introduce next year will not be changed at a later point when England, Wales and Northern Ireland get their schemes up and running. The alternative, of course, is for the Scottish Government to give up and to wait for the UK Government to go ahead in 2025. One of the problems with that, though, is they simply don't think that UK Government timetable is realistic.
Glenn at Holyrood, thank you.